Mark Mix is with us. He is president of the National Rightto Work Committee. We were talking about violence and unions, and I seem to recall that there is some exception in the law that literally can allow for violence without prosecution. But maybe I got my tinfoil hat on. He'll tell me if I'm wrong.
No, Gary, take it off. Take it off. You're spot on, and that shows a working knowledge of federal policy. And what you're talking about is a 1973 Supreme Court decision called Enmons, E-N-M-O-N-S. And this was a decision by the U.S. Supreme Court that said union officials cannot be prosecuted under federal extortion and racketeering laws for acts of violence that are used to achieve legitimate union objectives. So that's the quote. It's hard to believe, but if you and I got together and we were trying to extort money from Jake, the producer, and we could be prosecuted under federal extortion laws. But if you're a union official and you use acts of violence to get a legitimate union objective, i.e. a pay raise or better hours, and you use violence to do that, you cannot be prosecuted under the same laws that you and I would be prosecuted under if you're a union official or a union agent. And union officials have used that as a defense in acts of violence across the country, in courtrooms across the country. And when people hear about it, they say that can't be true, but it is the truth, and they can look it up.
Wow. Oh, boy. That makes it kind of difficult to protect yourself and defend yourself. If the union is on strike and I cross the picket line because I'm what they call a scab, can they club me over the head and get away with it because of that?
Well, that's an interesting question. I mean, if in some instances when there's a labor dispute in several states, I believe it's 13 states, that basically in order for the police to enforce the law during a labor dispute, the governor or some elected official has to give them the go-ahead. So, in West Virginia, we know this because in the old mine strikes back in the 90s, the state police would have to sit on the hood of their car and watch union strikers throw bricks and stones at trucks and literally just watch while this violence was going on in the picket line. And, the idea that you would club somebody over the head, hopefully the police would enforce criminal laws, but from a standpoint, if it's a coordinated campaign of violence led by union officials, and they're demanding, a new contract or better wages, there is a defense that union officials can use if they help to plan it and said, hey, Jimmy, go beat up Joey. They can't be prosecuted for that action. Hopefully the local police would come in and enforce the law when it comes to someone getting beat up, but it's not guaranteed. And there's plenty of examples of things like that happening, Gary, without anyone being prosecuted. In fact, in West Virginia, one coal mine, there was a gentleman who wasn't even involved in the strike. He was leaving work in a pickup truck. Gunshots rang out. He was shot in the head. His truck overturned in a ditch. He went down. They continued to throw rocks at him, and they tried to throw rocks at anyone who was trying to rescue him. He ended up dying, and the person that shot him, they knew who shot him. He got prosecuted for what was it called? Endangering disabling the driver of a motor vehicle used in interstate commerce. That's what he was charged with. And the Teamsters Union paid all his legal costs and got him off for, quote, disabling the driver of an automobile used in interstate commerce. That was the charge.
No murder.
No.
Lord. All right, I got one last thing here, Mark Mix, and then I am going to throw you out because the doctor with the Italian name that nobody can pronounce is up next. And that is the tie between the fight for 15 and minimum wage hikes in unions. Why are unions always out pushing for minimum wage hikes?
Well, because what you do, Gary, if you raise the floor of wages, you obviously have to raise the next level and the level after that, and the ceiling has to go up commensurately. And union officials are negotiating contracts now that are a percentage of your pay. They're not a flat, $30 a month or $32 a month or $50 a month, which come out to about an average between $800 and $1,000 a year in most situations. They now get a percentage of your hourly rate. And so by increasing the wage rate and getting the Congress or getting government to do that, they actually get an increase in union dues and union revenue. So it's all about the money. Unions are about a $20 billion a year business. Their business is union dues and revenue. And so the more people they can force or convince to join the union and pay dues, the more money they get.
I wish I had time to talk about separating my union dues from the union's political funds, but I think you'd have to go to that website for the National Rightto Work Committee. I got to run. Mark Mix, thank you for being with us.
Thanks, Gary. Appreciate it.
All right, it is the USA.